All right. Hey, I'm in Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11. I want to just share a few things in Daniel chapter 11 tonight. Kind of wrap up some stuff as we're looking at Daniel these next few weeks. Remember, we're talking about some prophetic text. And as a part of this prophetic literature that Daniel is recording for us, it's very easy for us to get overwhelmed by what we read. A lot of imagery, a lot of things that stand for events or people. In chapter 7 and chapter 8 of Daniel, there were some crazy looking images, beasts, goats, horns, 10 horns, all this kind of stuff. And it can be overwhelming. We're not even in the book of Revelation and it's overwhelming already. We have to approach prophecy and prophetic text with the idea that, number one, that God knows. God's in control. God knows. And as a part of that, we can put greater trust and faith in God's provision for us and protection of us because He knows the end of the story already. It's His story. That's why we call it history. It's His story. And so He knows the end of it. So we don't have to worry about and fret over what's going to happen in the end times because God already knows. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what's going to happen in your life, knows what's going to happen in all of our lives as a collective people, as a nation, as a world. Second thing I think we need to remember when we approach prophecy is that it should be a sense of comfort. It should be an assurance for us that God's in control, but it should also bring us comfort because we don't have to worry about how do we make this world better. As a Christian, you're to live according to the precepts and teachings of Christ. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, your neighbor as yourself, and in your own small way, make a difference. But let me bust your bubble just for a second. You are not significant enough to make a world difference. Even the greatest among us, in terms of influence, collectively on the stage of all of history are but a blip. And so we are probably not going to make a lasting difference. No decision we make is going to make a lasting difference. So where's the assurance? The assurance is that it's not up to you to make the difference. That's the assurance. Put all your faith in God and let your assurance be in that He is unstoppable, He is all-powerful, He is the strength. I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to practice weakness so that He can practice strongness. When He is weak, when we are weak, He is strong, the Bible says. All right, all of that to keep in mind, the proper perspective of prophecy. Now, before I read chapter 11, let me tell you what I'm going to tell you. I've told you before. You follow that? You follow that there? What I'm about to tell you, I've told you. I've already told you before. We're going to talk about some stuff that Daniel has seen in a vision. This is the third vision I'm sharing with you. The first vision and the second vision talked about the same thing. Well, guess what? The third vision talks about the same thing too, but in more detail. Each vision gets more detailed. One scholar said this about chapter 11. It is the most accurately detailed prophecy that we can hold up to history and see step by step by step the fulfillment of the first 35 verses. So I'm going to walk you through these 35 verses as quickly as I can. I hope to be able to get through. Verse 36, there's a shift. Remember, prophecy is a layered onion. Some of those layers look up close and some of those layers look way off in the distance. In chapter 11 of Daniel, the first 35 verses are going to deal with a time period after Daniel's vision, but it's already happened in our lifetime. It's already past tense. Verse 36, scholars believe that it begins to look forward at the end times and the end times Antichrist and those kind of events, things that have not happened yet. So let's just struggle through this together. Chapter 11, verse 1. And as for me, in the first year of Darius the Mede, remember we had the Babylonians, the Babylonian Empire, we had the Medes, we had the Persians,
Had the Greeks. After the Greeks, Alexander the Great's empire dispersed out. We'll get there. Let's don't get ahead of ourselves. In the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to confirm and strengthen him. And now I will show you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings shall arise in Persia. 3 more kings shall arise in Persia, and a 4th shall be far greater than all of them. So 3 kings were to arise after Cyrus the Mede's reign, and then the 4th would be a greater king. And when he had become strong, 4th king will be far richer than all of them. And when he has become strong enough through riches, he shall stir up all against the kingdom of Greece. All right, let's just put a pause right there at the end of verse 2. I don't want to confuse you with a bunch of names and a bunch of dates, but let me just say this. We got Cyrus, boom, boom, boom. You can look it up on your own. I'll be glad to give you some commentary advice. You can do historical studies. There's 3 kings after Cyrus, and then we come to Xerxes, the Persian king Xerxes, who was one of the greatest Persian kings up to that point, most powerful Persian king up to that point. Daniel doesn't talk to us about kings after Xerxes because he's not concerned about it, because it doesn't pertain to the work that God is doing for his people. Cyrus is important because Cyrus was one of the people that sent the Jewish people back home after the Babylonians were conquered. He sent some of the Jews back home, and this is part of what caused him to eventually lose some of his kingdom authority. But after him, there's a series of kings, and we finally get to the 4th king. That's Xerxes. Xerxes was a Persian king. Modern-day Iran is Persia, modern-day Iran. Mede would be North Iran. Persia would be southern Iran. Verse 3 says that verse 2 says that this king, who we know is Xerxes, is going to rise up against the Greek kingdom. Verse 3. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion and do as he wills. And as soon as he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. All right, so Xerxes he's going to fight a battle against the Greeks, and the Greeks are led by who? Remember this from the last 2 weeks? Alexander the Great. Alexander conquered the known world of his day in a few years. With such speed, it was just incredible. All right. He confronts on the battlefield Xerxes. Guess who loses? Xerxes loses. But it was not too long after Alexander has expanded the Greek kingdom to the largest kingdom, he's become the world power of that day, that he suddenly dies. He's not killed, he dies. He gets sick and dies. He has 4 generals. Before I get to the 4 generals, it says here that his kingdom is divided to the 4 winds of heaven. These 4 winds of heaven would be the idea of total dispersion. It's like just, these aren't the 4 generals, but it's just like total dispersion. It's separation. It's desolation. And we know this is what happened. Ultimately, Alexander's kingdom, his Greek empire, divides down into about 10, depending on how you count them, roughly 10 little kingdoms, but of those little kingdoms, there's really 4 that are over 4 different areas. So you got like an area, and then there might be little subsets in those little areas. So those 4 major divisions were his 4 generals. He had 4 generals, and they divided up the Greek empire. Look what it says here. As soon as he has arisen, in verse 4, his kingdom shall be broken and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not to his posterity. What's a posterity? That would be his children, his offspring. Do you know why the 4 generals took over Alexander's Greek empire and divided it amongst themselves? Because Alexander had 2 kids, and you know what happened to them? They were murdered. That's the way they did it in the old days. Your kids would have inherited your empire, so the way that you get the kids out of the way is you murder them. And then the generals were able to divide up the kingdom. So it did not go to Alexander's posterity, nor according to the authority with which he had ruled. Neither one of those generals ever had the authority that Alexander had. None of them were ever as great as he was. For his kingdom shall be plucked up and go to others besides these. Went to the 4 generals. Verse 5. Then the king of the south shall be strong. All right. These 4 generals now in this prophecy are going to become kings in the vision. The king of the south is going to be Egypt, the land of Egypt. It was ruled by Ptolemy. It became the Ptolemaic Empire. The kingdom of the north is the Seleucid Empire. Seleucid was the general. There are 2 other kingdoms under the authority of the other 2 generals. Daniel doesn't deal with them in this vision because God doesn't deal with them in this vision, and the answer is very simply because they're inconsequential to God's people. Can you get a picture of the Holy Land in your mind? Picture a map of the Holy Land. You know how the Holy Land, I'm going to let you be looking at me like I'm the map. If I'm Israel, good looking me, I'm Israel. Down here where my belly is, this is the down where the Dead Sea is. Dead Sea is kind of where my hand's waving down here. This is the Jordan River where my arm is. Up here's Sea of Galilee. Dead Sea down here. This is the southern kingdom of Judah. Up here where my head is, this is the land of the Galilee, the northern kingdom, known anciently as Israel. Israel, Judah, Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea. What's over here? Mediterranean Sea. That's right. What's on the other side of the Jordan River? Nope. Huh? I can't hear you. Desert. Modern day country name. Jordan. Modern day, that's going to be important. Hold on to that. Modern day Jordan. And what's up here north of Israel, north of Galilee? Lebanon and Syria. Syria. Okay? All right. Egypt is below my feet. Be below the stage. Southern kingdom, Egypt, down here. Northern kingdom, Syria. Syria, that's home base, Damascus. What's in between southern kingdom and northern kingdom? Israel. Land of Israel. And so they're stuck in the middle of 2 kings, former generals of Alexander, and it's going to become a big fight over the next several hundred years for this little sliver of dust between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. All right. Then the king of the south, Egypt, shall be strong, but one of his princes shall be stronger than he, and shall rule, and his authority shall be a great authority. After some years they shall make an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. All right, we know from history that, I hope I'm going to say this right, Berenice, maybe Berenice, Berenice, who was the daughter of Ptolemy, who was the king of the southern kingdom down in Egypt. His daughter married Antiochus II, who is also known as Theos, which is a name that means God. Antiochus II, this would be the grandfather of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who is he's the biblical image model for the Antichrist of the last days. All right, they get married around 250 BC. His daughter marries this king. All right, so what does the prophecy say? After some years, verse 6, they shall make an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. Here's what the ancient agreement was. My daughter is going to marry you, king, and you're going to have a kid, and your kid is going to rule both of our kingdoms. And he's going to be greater than both of us. The verse goes on to say, but she shall not retain the strength of her arm, and he and his arm shall not endure. So something happens to her, something happens to her arm or offspring, and something's going to happen to him. But she shall be given up, and her attendants, he who fathered her, and he who supported her in those times. Guess what? You ladies, y'all going to love this. So Antiochus II, Antiochus Theos, he takes this bride, Berenice, however you say it, but he's got another wife. She's been around a little bit longer than this new girl, and she doesn't like this new girl. So guess what she does? Kills her kid, and then kills the king. And she takes over the kingdom until her son is old enough to rule. He's a minor at this point. All of this happened after Daniel wrote this vision down. All right, verse 7. And from a branch, from her roots, so Bernice's roots, from a branch of her roots, one shall arise in his place, and he shall come against the army and enter the fortress of the king of the north, and he shall deal with him and shall prevail. All right, so Bernice, or however you say her name, she had a brother. His name was also Ptolemy III, and he attacked the northern kingdom. He attacked it up in Syria, somewhere around 246, 245, 243, somewhere like that, BC. So Papa sends the daughter up here to marry the king. They have a kid. His first wife doesn't like it, kills the king, kills the wife, kills the son. The first wife takes the kingdom for a little while till her son can grow up. But meanwhile, girl that got killed down here, she has a brother. Brother's going to get ticked off. He's going to come up north and he's going to pick a fight with the guy up north, or the kingdom up north. All of this happened after, hundreds of years after Daniel wrote it down. Verse 10. I'm not going to read all the way through verse 10, but look here, verse 10 and following is a set of wars, battles. North fights the south, south fights the north, north fights the south, south fights the north. North wins sometimes, south wins sometimes. Sometimes it's just a long, drawn-out battle that involves a lot of death, a lot of killing, a lot of bloodshed, and nobody really is the victor. All right, go down to verse 18. Afterward. Oh, by the way, they're fighting north and south. What's in the middle? Israel. And they're trying to stay neutral. The Jews are just trying to stay out of it. Kind of make you think of anything now? Jews just want to be left alone. Big battle going on. All right, verse 18. Afterward, he shall turn his face to the coastlands and shall capture many of them, but a commander shall put an end to his insolence. Indeed, he shall turn his insolence back upon him. Then he shall turn his face back toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and shall not be found. Verse 18 points to Antiochus III. Antiochus III. Now this would have been, remember I told you the daughter went up here and married the king? All right, that's Antiochus II. I'm a junior. My son's the third. See, we still do this. We keep naming these next generations the same thing. The second son that survived the first wife's kid, Antiochus III. So now he's grown up, and he's starting to kick some hiney around the Holy Land. And so he gets down to the southern kingdom, and all of a sudden some ships start showing up. And anyway, afterwards, it says in verse 18, afterwards he shall turn his face to the coastlands, and he shall turn his, and shall capture many of them, but a commander shall put an end to their insolence. He goes down, he's in the land of Egypt, the Roman Empire shows up. And he was forced, he was beaten in a battle, and the Roman army said, now stay with me here, I'm about to connect past weeks. We've beaten you, but we don't want to govern your land. We don't want Syria. We want Egypt. We want you to go home. So go take your army and leave Egypt and go back to Syria, and you're going to become our underling. You're going to do what the emperor tells you to do. You can still be king of your land, but you're going to have a king, and that's the emperor in Rome. And to show your allegiance, you're going to have to pay a big fine. They call it a tribute. Remember me talking about this last week? And in order to make sure that you stay loyal, we're taking your son and we're sending him to Rome, and he's going to be held hostage. The son's name was Antiochus IV, later to become known Antiochus Epiphanes, who's going to become the role model for what we call the Antichrist. All right, let me just keep on reading. Stay with me. Verse 19. Then he shall turn his face back toward his fortresses. He'll go back to Syria. He'll go back to his own land, and he shall stumble and fall and shall not be found. He didn't have enough money to pay the tribute fine. So he went back to his homeland and he started raiding the temples, the pagan temples. He comes to a pagan temple of Zeus, and the local people of that city killed him because he was robbing their temple of Zeus. And so he stumbles and falls. Now, while he is dead, more's happening. Verse 20. Then shall arise in his place one who shall send an extractor of tribute for the glory of the kingdom. So he's dead. His son's in Rome. So who's going to lead the kingdom? His brother. His brother steps up and says, hey, I got the same last name. Let me lead. So he takes over and he becomes the king in Syria. Well, Rome says, we don't want this guy's son anymore. Remember that? So they make the new king send his son, and they send Antiochus IV a packing. What does it say in verse 20? Then shall arise in his place one who shall send an extractor of tribute for the glory of the kingdom. But within a few days he shall be broken. The brother was murdered. Before word can get back to Rome that the new king has now fallen dead, Antiochus IV hears about it, and he hightails it over to Syria. And he starts glad-handing, and he starts sweet-talking, and he gets some supporters. And he gets an army, and he takes over, and he becomes king. But within a few days, he shall be broken. The brother dies, neither in anger nor in battle. In his place shall arise a contemptible person to whom royal majesty has not been given. Wasn't supposed to be king, but he became king. Antiochus IV, known as Epiphanes. He shall come in without warning and obtain kingdom by flatteries, which he did. Armies shall be utterly swept away before him and broken, even the prince of the covenant. He was a pretty good fighter on the battlefield. He could really lead a good army, and he had some great military tactics that he employed. Verse 23, and from the time that an alliance is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, and he shall become strong with a small people. Without warning, he shall come into the richest parts of the province, and he shall do what neither his father nor his father's fathers have done, scattering among them plunder, spoil, and goods. So he's taken over. Jump down to verse 29. At the time appointed, he, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, shall return and come into the south, but it shall not be at this time as it was before. For ships of Kittim, that's ancient Cyprus, shall come against him, and he shall be afraid and withdraw, and shall turn back and be enraged and take action against the holy covenant. So he's going into the southern kingdom, and he's going to fight. And guess what happens? Same thing that happened to his daddy. Rome shows up. They get off the boat. And he's shaking in his boots. Because guess what he remembers? He remembers what happened to his daddy. And so the head of the Roman legions went up to him, had a letter from the emperor. Gave him the letter. The letter said, go back home or die. If you stay, you're going to have to fight my army, and what happens, happens. But if you leave now, we're going to let you live. You're going to have to pay money, you have to pay a fine, but you can go back home and be king. So he tried to play it smart. He said, Let me think about it. Give me a day or two. The leader took a stick. He drew a circle. This is right out of the movies. He drew a circle around Antiochus Epiphanes and said, I need an answer before you leave that circle. And so he knew he was cornered. So he packed up his men and he went home. But he didn't have money for a tribute. And so from that event, he's got to come up with money. He's mad. His reputation is stained. And so he's got an idea. Where can I get gold? Oh, those Jews have a menorah in the temple. It's made of gold. And they've got an altar. It's made of gold. And they've got all those offerings. They're gold. And so he decides he's going to raze the temple, R-A-Z-E. He's going to attack and conquer the temple. He's going to steal and plunder it. And then he's going to embarrass the Jews by shaming it. Look on the next verse here. Verse 31, forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and the fortress, and shall take away the regular burnt offerings. He stopped the burnt offerings, and they shall set up the abomination that makes desolation. Where else is this term used in the Bible? Matthew 24. What is the desolation, the abomination of desolation? This is where Antiochus Epiphanes resurrects a giant statue of Zeus. He did it on the 15th day of Chislev, 167 BC. 10 days later, on the 25th day, he started sacrificing all kind of animals to Zeus in the temple, inside the temple, of which most assuredly were swine or pigs, an abomination to the Jews. All of this happened after Daniel wrote it down. God was letting them know what was coming. He already knew what was coming. I'm in control. Don't worry about the outcome. Flip over to the next couple of verses. Verse 36. I'm just going to jump ahead. I'm looking at my time. Verse 36. This is where a shift in the text takes place. We may have to come to this next week. And this gets above my pay grade, so y'all got to bear with me here. But scholars believe that everything that happened, verse 1 to verse 35, was dealing with events that have already transpired. But something happens in verse 36. Terminologies change. Now we're not talking about kings of the north and kings of the south. All of a sudden there's a new character just called the king, singular. And the king shall do as he wills. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself from every god, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. And he shall prosper till the indignation is accomplished, for what is decreed shall be done. This king shall pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or to the one beloved by women. He shall not pay attention to any other god, for he shall magnify himself above all. And he shall honor the God of fortresses instead of these. A God, lowercase g, whom his fathers did not know, he shall honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. He shall deal with the strongest fortresses and the help of a foreign God. Those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor. He shall make them rulers over many, and shall divide the land for a price. Scholars believe verse 35 begins talking about what we know as the Antichrist. Verse 40, at the time of the end. The king of the south, where is that? Egypt. Shall attack him. Who is him? The king. The king mentioned in verse 36. But the king of the north shall rush upon him like a whirlwind. So where's the north? Syria. So Egypt, Syria. Where's the Antichrist then? He's probably in between them somewhere, which would be what we call the land of Israel. He shall rush upon him like a whirlwind with chariots and horsemen and with many ships, and he shall come into countries and shall overflow and pass them. Verse 41, he shall come, listen to this, he shall come, this king, this Antichrist shall come into the glorious land that's synonymous with Israel, and tens of thousands shall fall. There's going to be a lot of people die, but these shall be delivered out of his hand, Edom and Moab and the main parts of the Ammonites. You know who those three people are today? The nation of Jordan. And why in the world would Jordan get bypassed on the slaughter unless perhaps they're viewed as friend and not foe? And what would make them a friend of Syria and Egypt? Could it be a common faith? In all of the Holy Land, and I'll include in that terminology Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ethiopia. What is the common religion that they have? Muslim. But in Israel, the common religion is Judaism and Christianity. It seems, and our time is up, but it seems that Daniel is given a glimpse not only of what was going to happen sooner, but what was going to happen later. And what he sees is that there is a figure who comes into great power and seems to be stationed in or around modern-day Israel. And he has irked Syria, and he has irked Egypt. He's irked the Muslims. He's going to end up irking the Jews too. God saw it all already. He wrote this down through Daniel hundreds, yea, even thousands of years before it would happen, as a way to let us know that he's still in control. It's his story. And he's moving history to a common end. And that common end is this: the end of time. It may not be the way we would like it. We would like the end of time to be like this. We all have a party, we say our goodbyes, time ends, we go to heaven. But the way the end of time is going to roll, it's going to be more like this. Pardon the expression, but literally, all hell is going to break loose. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Literally, the gates of hell will burst open, and the Antichrist, under the dominion and influence of Satan himself, will lead a war against the people of God. And he knows that he will lose. His goal is not to win. It's to take as many people to hell with him when it's over. And so we read prophecy not that we might know when things will happen, but that we might know what will happen, so that we can say, hey, it's all right because my God's in control, and I'm going to find comfort in his strength and his power and his knowledge and him being God, not me. Our time is up. Let me pray for us. Father, thank you tonight for this word. I pray it is an encouragement to all. Lord, so much of this is just way beyond our ability to understand, but we understand you love us, and we're going to hold on to that tonight. And in the simplicity of that loving knowledge, we find the assurance that we can face tomorrow. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Have a great day.